A very warm welcome to IDFC First Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 13, powered by Tata Tele Business Services. I'm Ritvika Gupta. Now, India's SMBs are scaling faster than ever, but their technology foundations often aren't built for what comes next. Today's episode will decode what it takes to build a scalable digital core. In the first segment, I'm joined by Pravir Dahiya, Chief Technology Officer, Tata Tele Services, to understand how small businesses must rethink technology. In the second segment, I'll be in conversation with Anvize Rodrigues, Chief Information Officer, Tata Tele Services, on driving business leadership in a rapidly evolving digital era. Pravir, welcome to ET Now Leaders of Tomorrow. Pleasure to be chatting with you today.
Thank you very much. Looking forward.
So Pravir, let me begin by asking you, as a CTO, when you look at growing SMBs, how do you think they need to rethink technology as a strategy, especially when they're moving from early growth stage to, when they're scaling, basically?
This can be a very common trap which most of the SMBs find themselves in. One of the things which we have noticed is that people today have access to a lot of tools. With software as a service becoming very common, it's easy to find a tool to quickly solve your problem of today.
Okay.
However, that's where the problem starts happening. What you need to look at is not what is the tool to solve your problem for today, but will that same tool enable you to look at the business and support the business, let's say 3 years down the line. Now, one of the things which we have noticed in a partner which we worked with recently, he was a retail organization with multiple stores, and they were growing, like you asked about SMBs.
Yeah.
Think about it as a small kirana store. You start with one shop, and then the owner or the person sitting at the desk knows everything about the store, right? They know what inventory they have, how much sales happen of which product, they know where to order, they have all the data in their heads. But as they grow to, let's say, 2 branches and 3 branches and 5 branches,
Right.
now you need something like a real-time inventory system, right?
Sure.
So that you can see all the stores having which inventory and which is running out and so on and so forth. Now what happened is that they started the technology journey by connecting each of their stores by a disparate link. Now, typically you take a broadband connection or an internet line and start the business. But once you use that kind of a link and grow to this scale and have an online inventory system which is common to all, and one of these links breaks, it affects all the stores. So what we worked with them was a solution called software-defined wide area networking, which is SD-WAN, with a managed service on top so that they didn't need to get into fixing the technology part. Now what happened immediately was, firstly, there was complete resilience of all the links. So whenever there was an outage, the alternate link or the backup link took over, and the complete network was fully managed. They didn't need to bother about whether the network was up or not. So therefore our belief is, look at 3 main things. One is standardization. Standardization means, are you making sure that all the products and services which you have, like these stores, are connected to a standard technology? The second is the resiliency or redundancy I talk about.
Right.
Like, do you have a backup to each of these links? Otherwise, if one fails, you are down. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And lastly, is this your core business? If you're running a retail shop, your business is to make sure inventory is available and the stock is available to sell to your customers, not to manage the network part or the internet line.
Understood.
So using these 3, I think you can build a journey which not only supports your business for the future, but make sure it doesn't break today as well.
Absolutely. But at times, a solid foundation is mistaken as a rigid one. So how does one build a digital core that is strong enough, stable enough to rely on, but also flexible enough to pivot when the market shifts?
The key thing, the way at least I look at it, is interoperability, which means initially when you start out, like the store example I spoke about earlier, you could have disparate systems. So you have a billing system to invoice your products and services in one place. You could have a CRM system which has your customer databases in terms of information about the customer sitting separately initially. They might seem okay to start with, like islands. But gradually, as these islands grow and your business grows, they become silos. And these silos could eventually become bottlenecks.
Sure.
And if they are not interoperable, it's almost like a nightmare. Then you can never fix that again. So the key to a solid foundation is to make sure that interoperability exists and you have a roadmap towards ensuring that each of these parts will continue to work together as you go forward.
Right. So, Pravir, also most SMBs today, they treat the cloud as a storage locker, a place where they can move their data. But, as they scale, an unplanned move can also lead to more complexities. So, I just want to ask you, how would you advise leaders to view the cloud as a strategic engine instead of, just a digital warehouse?
Cloud story boomed literally around the COVID time, right? When everybody used to work from home and you need to have access to your systems without coming into your data centers and picking up the data. And it became what the people typically called a cloud-first story. However, what we try to look at it from a point of view of is how do you make it cloud smart and not cloud first? One of the examples which we worked with typically in this industry was a pharma industry. And they had various labs across various locations, and they used to use cloud to store some of their data and use that as and when required. Now, these connectivity links were based on the public internet. So they needed to work together to make sure that whatever outcomes were being sought were achieved. But somehow, because of these internet links, they were unable to do so as they grew and went forward. So we went ahead and we have a product called Easy Cloud Connect and proposed that to them, wherein the bigger links, wherein the critical applications which required the collaboration from their various labs were converted to private lines, which were dedicated, non-contented links. Don't use cloud first anymore. Look at cloud smart. Prioritize the pipe over the cloud, not necessarily the other way.
Yep, absolutely. Now moving to AI, everyone is talking about AI. But I want to ask you, how do AI and automation truly make a difference, and what are the problems that they're actually solving?
There are two elements in this. One is pure automation, right? And one is AI. And both of these do different things. What is automation? It's like if you have a repetitive task, too much of, observation required, too many eyes to, figure out what's going on.
Mechanical
It's a repetitive mechanical process. Any machine or a robot or a computer can do it better than humans. I mean, this is something we've been all seeing for a long time, right? And that's typically automation.
Yeah.
AI is kind of a layer on top to say, now not only am I automated, but I am able to do a little more than what the automation did to me. A typical example of that I would look at, there was a case which we work with a customer who was struggling with the amount of designs they were creating for putting in to some of their products which were out in the market.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is like a fashion brand, right? So fashion runs out of steam very quickly. Now, with AI, they are able to do it by the systems, and they can produce designs way faster and way better, and produce them so quickly that you don't even know whether it was done by a human or a machine or whatever. So that's the speed you can get with technologies like AI.
But tell me, as SMBs become more distributed, why does security stop being an IT solution, and maybe people need to look at it as more of a core business requirement?
See, one of the things which happens as you scale up and grow, as the subject of our discussion today, your attack surface is also increasing.
Okay.
Your vulnerabilities are increasing as much as your opportunities. Therefore, your risk is increasing as well. So you really need to make sure that security is in the design phase itself. Right in the beginning, you look at security and bring it in. Typical example of one manufacturer which we worked with a few years ago. They started out small again and were gradually scaling up. And when COVID happened and people had to work from home, they offered solutions to employees to access their ERP systems and so on from home. So we worked with them with a cloud solution which offered endpoint security as well as a managed service on top. But with this cloud solution which we offered to them, it went pre-secured. So when you were not bothered about the foundation, you could trust it blindly. So securing the foundation becomes extremely essential, and it becomes more of an enabler of growth rather than a challenger, right? And that's the approach I think all growing SMBs should look at.
Sure. Pravir, you spoke about managed services. How do managed services help lean teams scale, without losing control?
Yeah, typically in the past, managed services has been looked at outsourcing, and we look at it a little differently.
Sure.
So we look at it in a sense of 3 layers, if I may use that word.
Sure.
One is network as a service, right? I spoke about SD-WAN right in the beginning, right? Second, look at cloud.
Yeah.
Now, even in cloud, what is interesting is that it's not that you just fit it and forget it. You have to manage it on an ongoing basis. Because if you don't, what tends to happen is either your performance drops, and then you need more capacity or more compute, or your cost goes up because you're using a little piece, but then you have occupied a lot of bandwidth which you've hired from the provider.
Right.
So the cloud needs ongoing management as well.
Yeah.
So network, cloud, and of course, most importantly, in the end, you also need to ensure that you have managed services around your regular base working of the organization itself.
Right, so we covered almost everything from clouds to networks to security. Tell me now, as we are finally wrapping up this conversation, what according to you truly separates a scalable technology foundation from a fragile setup that eventually breaks?
I think the quick fixes create those fragile networks. However, that's going to lead us to problems in the future. So let's look at business grade solutions which will help us to grow our business 3 years from today, let's say. So if there are things to be noted, there are 3 key takeaways to look in this whole matter. One is to prioritize predictability.
Sure.
And predictability comes from both standardization and interoperability, and also ensuring that you are able to monitor through dashboards across your complete footprint of locations where you are operating from. The second element which we would strongly recommend to SMBs is to be proactive rather than reactive. And here we bring in concepts of what we say 24/7 monitoring of both the service as well as the security. The third important element in this is the managed services piece, which I spoke about. You need to focus on your core business. Do you want to really get into fixing the plumbing? Give it to the experts there, right?
Right.
At TTBS, one of the things, and as me myself, the way we look at technology is it should be so simple and so gentle that you shouldn't feel it. It's like the breath of life, right? It's there, but it's just giving you life. It doesn't matter anymore.
Fantastic. Well, it was really, really nice talking to you, Pravir. Thank you so much for being on ET Now Leaders of Tomorrow.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
It's time for a quick break here. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. Welcome back to IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 13, powered by Tata Tele Business Services. After understanding how scalable tech is designed, we turn to how it's actually run on the ground. Joining me now in the studio is Anvize Rodrigues, Chief Information Officer, Tata Tele Services. Anvize, welcome to ET Now Leaders of Tomorrow. It's a pleasure to be chatting with you today.
Thank you, Ritvika. Same feelings here. It's a pleasure to be a part of this ET Now program.
So, first things first, I want to ask you, Anvize, from a CIO point of view, tell me what makes IT feel inefficient in growing SMBs?
A very interesting question, Ritvika, and let me put this up in multiple points.
Sure.
So number one, as a CIO, we build systems for a long-term architecture and stronger controls. But in growing SMEs, what happens is they build their IT structures more organically, which is one system at a time. And they build their IT mostly to survive. If these systems break eventually in production, you are in a phase where you're actually dealing with multiple vendors, trying to figure out where the problems are. So IT is that central function which is juggling between multiple priorities. IT is always taken as a lean, team.
Sure.
Very lean team. But as the companies grow, they bring in new tools, new technologies. It's the same manpower which is actually managing multifold stool. And that's why IT then starts feeling very inefficient in terms of the entire ecosystem. Now, if businesses want to plan to scale and grow, I think they need to start with a mindset of IT being a scaling partner right from the beginning and not when they start scaling. I think that's the true crux.
So give us an understanding, break it down for us. How does managing multiple vendors affect the daily work of IT teams?
So for example, there's an organization and you've set up your basic IT structure, your IT infra, IT applications. Now, as you grow and technologies evolve, you start getting a new system. Then there's a new vendor from whom you get a system, right? You get another system from a second vendor. That way, you end up having multiple vendors in your ecosystems. And IT's primary functionality is to manage the systems and technology. Now, for each of these tools and technology, since there are multiple vendors, you have multiple contracts, you have multiple billing cycles, you have multiple SLAs. So, and to bring the true value chain to the business, each of these systems need to talk. Now, let me give you an example. If you are in a production environment and something goes down, you don't know what's gone wrong. So you have 5 systems, and the IT guy is looking at each of these systems, figuring out what has gone wrong. And each of the vendors then have to take the accountability, which they don't. It then becomes a struggle managing those vendors. So instead of, being with multiple vendors, looking at something which is more centralized in terms of the managed services model, and IT focusing largely on being innovators and focusing on technology, I think that's the leverage managed services kind of a model would give you.
Yeah, so we'll speak about the managed services model in a bit, but I actually want to ask you, IT firefighting is a constant struggle among SMBs.
Right.
So I want to ask you, why is that so first, and most importantly, how do we stop it?
The struggle begins when each of these IT systems which you independently get in the system have their own kind of monitoring. So when a fire comes in the organization, you're looking at multiple screens, for example, where's the fire, right? Trying to figure that out. You look at the first system, say there's no fire. You go to the next system and say, hey, there's no fire. Third system. It takes a lot of time. And if we could give a single dashboard to an IT where he could look at one single screen where he can see multiple systems, how they're performing, where there is a challenge. If there is a system which has gone wrong, and if there is a challenge, there's a red beep that says, hey, there's a problem. It helps them narrow down. And this is something which we do beautifully at Tata Tele Business Services with our customers. So we give them not only the services, technology, and platform, we also enable them with that centralized monitoring so that they don't end up firefighting and they focus on actually what they are meant to be focusing, being that business partner to the business teams.
So Anvize, many SMBs feel that once they have a firewall, once they have a lease line, they are sorted, they have checked the cybersecurity box. But why do you think it is insufficient, especially for a modern distributed enterprise today?
Cybersecurity is no longer something which is good to have. It's a must to have. As a CIO, I would recommend that if you want to make your IT ecosystem foolproof, you need to have measures beyond a firewall. So we at Tata Tele Business Services help our customers by offering a suite of cybersecurity products, and our portfolio is extremely strong in terms of strengthening that. So with that, what we enable our customers is to have a good night's sleep. We protect their digital assets and their technology ecosystems.
Fantastic. But correct me if I'm wrong, in 2026, when we speak of cloud, we have to move beyond the cloud migration phase. I think the real competitive advantage lies in cloud intelligence now for SMBs. Tell me, how should CIOs bridge the gap between data in the cloud and driving business velocity using AI?
Traditionally, when ITs were started, for setting up any IT, you needed basic servers, large compute, large processing powers, etc., right? Then came the era of cloud, things changed. And if you want to set up your business today and start running, I think it's a matter of minutes. And as you scaled, you again were in that round robin, idea of getting a new server, again a procurement cycle to an implementation of 8 to 12 weeks. You were always in that round robin thing. But today, if you want to scale, it's pay as you grow. It happens in the matter of minutes. And with AI coming into the picture, that adds a beautiful story. Now, AI models need a large volume of data to grow, to learn, right? And to give you that value. And cloud helps, giving you that scale for running your models without having to worry about your physical server storage and give you that intelligence. And we at Tata Tele Business Services help, recommend, provide the services of Microsoft Azure Cloud, as well as the AI which is built. And collectively, we provide this comprehensive solution to our customers. People believe that For someone to have AI, you need to have AI/ML engineers, data scientists, and the large ecosystems, right? But that's not what is needed today. If you go out and see, there are multiple models. For example, Azure provides multiple models which are there. And these models are extremely simple. Even a novice can actually learn these models in a matter of hours and start using these models for their organization. In order to be big, you can actually start with these small ideas and they can take you a long mile. So that's where we add value.
So Anvize, you spoke about managed services model earlier. In an era where we are living in, where technology is expanding rapidly across cloud, networks, security, AI, do you think managed services model is becoming essential rather than just an option?
Absolutely, Ritvika. Managed services, I think, now becomes ingrained, I would say, in every organization. From an IT perspective, you are expected to manage your day-to-day, run the business, as well as continuously evolve, innovate, and be that business partner. Okay, IT was largely meant for survival, and now IT is moved to innovate as the digital transformation has happened. Now, in order for companies to move IT from a survival mode to a digital transformation mode or to a business partnership mode, you need that bandwidth from IT, right? And how can you actually achieve this? You achieve this through managed services. And that's what we truly do day in, day out at Tata Tele Business Services. We manage complete ecosystem for them. Maybe it's their Wi-Fi, their networks, their MPLSs, their firewall, their cybersecurity, managing their applications. So the end-to-end gambit of the IT ecosystem is offered as a managed services model, whereas customers can be truly innovators, and we do that job for them.
Right. And Anvize, as we are wrapping up this wonderful discussion, so India aims to be, a $7 trillion economy by 2030, and MSMEs are the backbone of that goal. Tell me, what would your advice be for all the IT leaders, in terms of how they can not just survive, but actually lead in this rapidly evolving new digital era that we're talking about?
Grow from being IT, using IT for survival, to leading by IT or leading by digital. So it's like, using digital for survival to using digital for leading. And if you were to look at it, MSMEs today are not just that footnote in the entire digital growth story, right? They are the story themselves. And when MSMEs realize that the digital transformations are enabling them to scale, to grow, there's that confidence. And once that confidence grows, the investment on digital transformation grows. And that's where they start growing and scaling themselves, right? Yeah. Now, if you have to reach this 7 trillion economy, there are about 6.3 crores MSMEs out there. And all of these MSMEs need to start focusing on moving from a digital awareness kind of a mode to a digital savvy kind of mode.
Right.
And we at Tata Tele Business Services work as those transformation partners. So we don't work as coming as a vendor trying to sell a product for you. We work with our MSME partners as two transformation partners. We help engage with them. We are with them at every step of their journey, right from inception to their growth and in the future. So I would advise to all the MSMEs is get up, it's still time, wake up, move from, just having a mere website to more being omnipresent and lead. You are the leaders of tomorrow, and I'm sure that you will be able to succeed, and we are all here to actually help you transform in that journey.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Lovely speaking to you, Anvize. Thank you so much for being here on ET Now Leaders of Tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Pleasure is mine.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition